Just brought in some lighting just to sort of lighten this up for you a bit more. We open this up and we're just going to brush paint this on now. So getting a bit on the brush. Let's move that out the way. And we're just going to now brush paint this on here. Right, being careful not to move it out of position. Right. And with that brushed on there now, what's basically going to happen now is that deckling solution is going to start to wrinkle it up, soften the decal up, get these out of the way, soften it up, and then it will start to conform. As it sort of dries, it sort of conforms around and sort of almost sort of stretches because it's sort of wrinkled up. You don't want to be touching it at this stage when it starts wrinkling up, because you can really just totally mess things up. And then when the wrinkling starts to settle down, you could add maybe another coat and another coat until it's totally nicely conformed. And you should see that there's going to be like no air pockets in there and silvering in there because we put that gloss coat down. Also, it has like an adhesive sort of agent to it, so not only is it conforming, but it's sticking it down. Now remember, this is basic. I mean, for you advanced people out there, there is another solution, microsol and set, but we're on a budget here and you can get away with just using the microsol. But if you've got a bit more money, you can go look into microset. There is a basic tutorial on more sort of information on decking on the Genesis Models website if you want to go down that route. But we're just going to keep doing that. We're going to keep on applying microsol until it's really sort of nicely sucked down, and you'll see any sort of bits that are out of shape start going round, even round corners and all sorts of cool stuff. So after our microsol has had that time to dry, and then the decal then starts to sort of shrink back to its normal position, but because the microsol has made it conform in and around whatever bits, it's nicely gone down. I mean, hopefully you can see there, it does look like it's almost been sort of printed on, and there's, you can't really tell or even see that that is a decal that's gone down on there. That's what's cool about microsol, and that's why you want to use it. Not only that, I mean, now that it's had time to dry, I mean, it's not going to be coming off easy at all, right? I can like sort of touch this, and it's, I mean, it will come off eventually, but it's very, very stuck down. Now what we want to do, what you sort of, the principle of putting decals down these days is you got that gloss coat, right, which allows your decal to go onto, and because it's all nice and smooth, you're not going to have any air bubbles in there, it'll stick easier and better. But then to really sort of lock it in, we come in with another gloss coat on top of our decal, so we sandwich our decal in between two gloss coats, which one sticks it down nice and solid. It's not going to come up or anything like that, and we're not going to have any problems with any sort of weathering or whatever afterwards. It just protects everything. It's a nice good save. So again, we can get out our gloss and a palette, just pour a little bit on here, and coming in again with our nice 3mm flat brush, we're just gonna, again, very carefully just get a little bit of this on the end of our brush, right, and with nice, slow, delicate strokes, we're just gonna put that really sort of good film all around. Again, you know, like a filter, like a glaze, it's just equal amounts of the gloss all over, not letting it pull up in nooks, crannies, recesses, anything like that. Just a nice film equally all over. But this time, you know, what we're going to do, we're not just going to be going on to the decals, right, but we're going to actually do this all over, right. I really want to sort of just protect absolutely everything, the paintwork, the decals, you name it. I want to give everything that nice little gloss coat. Remember, don't let it pull up. Any bubbles arise, give it a blow, should pop any sort of bubbles, and we want it all nice and just a nice sort of sheen to it all. So with the gloss all now down, our decals are sealed in, and it makes the perfect surface for doing any kind of weathering. So I mean, we've got our base colours down, we've got decals down, but a nice bit of a wash always sort of brings things to life. It brings all your details to the foreground, all your recesses and stuff look all shadowy and stuff. A nice cheap way, I mean, there's loads and loads of products we can go out and buy and make this all sort of really fancy, but nice and cheap. A good product is some form of black ink, right? You could pretty much use any ink, go out there, buy a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, I'm using Winsor & Newton, it's like an Indian ink, but as I say, I mean, whatever you can get, sort of nice and cheap. You really don't need a lot of this at all, right? So I'm just opening this up, then I'm going to get my paintbrush, just dab it in just a bit, right? Just one sort of paintbrush blob of this. Right, let's just put this down here, right? Let's clean my brush off, right? And what we're going to do is add a lot of water, right? So I'm just getting a pipette, some clean water just off camera, right? And what we want to do is sort of just add a nice couple of drops of this, and this ink just goes such a long way, right? Can probably keep adding drops, and basically you're looking for a very sort of diluted consistency. So maybe just on your palette you can just brush a bit across and just see, you know, how strong it is. I mean, we can go filter thin this down even more. As you can see, I mean, there's a big blob of water in here, and all I did was have like one paintbrush of this ink. It just really lasts. So I mean, you know, if you do buy some, I mean, you could just do umpteen thousand models with it. One thing you may want to go off and do, and it's nice, free and cheap, is go in and borrow some of the Mrs. Washing Up liquid. Maybe get just the tiniest little bit of a bit on your brush and mix that in there. I actually haven't got any, but the same thing, which is just in here, which is basically the same thing, Flow Improver by Winsor & Newton, basically has that same sort of characteristics, right? But we are doing a cheap build, so just go off and you know, use some washing up liquid. But I've only got this, so I've just got a bit of our Flow Improver, and what this will do is make our nice little ink wash that we've done here really sort of flow, right? Because what we're after is for this ink wash to not go off and, you know, settle on the surface. We want it to flow into all the nooks and crannies, recesses, and make all those nooks and crannies, recesses look darker, but not to sort of go completely over the surface and make the whole piece just look really all dark. Right, so I'm sort of happy with this. You know, I'm sort of keep testing it on my palette just to see the thickness. I mean, maybe we could have like a little experimental piece up here and just see, you know, how that's looking, and that's not too bad. Now, this is the other reason for having a glossy surface, because we've added the Flow Improver or washing up liquid to allow it to flow into the recesses, not on the surface. But also putting a gloss coat down also helps that, it helps it sort of spread more. So let's get our wash here and let's see how this is going to flow on here. Right, and hopefully, yeah, I mean that's looking good. Right, hopefully you can sort of see how, you know, any sort of surface areas, it's sort of nicely you know, flowed away from the surfaces, and it's flowed towards any sort of recessed raised areas, and you can sort of see it just slightly pulling up, and that's going to bring those details out. And we can also, you know, whack this all over our cockpit area, and as you can see, that wash, let's bring you in as close as we can because this is a small piece, and we just paint this on here, and there you go. You know, you can almost see it instantly sort of flow into recessed areas, any sort of raised areas, it flows in and around and tries to stay away from the surface areas, which is basically what you want. Right, let's just finish this piece. Let's just, you know, just almost sort of slapping it on. Right, and hopefully you can sort of see, you know, I mean, if we've got a bit pooling up, no problem, get your paintbrush, touch a kitchen paper towel, right, to let whatever's on your paintbrush sort of go onto the kitchen paper towel, and then you can just maybe touch up, there's a bit of a, you know, pool up area here that I don't like, just touch it and it'll suck it up nicely, and hopefully you can sort of see how that just gives it that really cool nice effect. So I'm just going to go around, paint this all on. If you want, you could have gone off and sort of empty paint pots. I know Tamiya's always a good one if you ever sort of start collecting Tamiya paints. You know, keep whatever's left over. If you empty one, just sort of clean it out. Tamiya pots are all good. You could have mixed it all in here, got the right consistency, and then, you know, a pot of this would have probably done umpteen thousand flipping cockpits for a very long time. So that's a nice wash. Remember, just make sure you let it dry. Also remember to make sure that you've let your gloss coats dry before you put the wash on also.